Hello, and welcome back to Ask a Theorist.
Or two.
We received some recent feedback of a couple very important questions, I'd say.
Important questions.
And
I think
we'd
they were
like
very
to
quality.
get back to you on those. So, Jim Collier.
He says that in some dialects of Mandarin, they only have 4 names of pitches. And he goes on to enumerate that they perhaps need to sleep 2 to a bunk, and that mi and ti share the same syllable, and re and la and do and so on. He says, can you reconcile this, or shall I consult a Chinese theorist? Honestly, Jim, consult a Chinese theorist? I think not. I think, in fact, if you were to look for a Chinese theorist, you would be hard-pressed to find one. I think in China they call people like that musicians.
But as for your Mandarin question, yes, there are 4 notes, because the Mandarin, of course, has 4 strings, and you strum about here, and so, of course, there's only 4 notes there with the 4 strings. I believe it's an orangish colored body.
Daniel, I think you're talking about a mandolin, and that's not getting answered. I cannot speak for Chinese music theory, to be honest, but I can say something impressive about American 4-note systems.
Shape notes.
Because such a thing does exist. In fact, a man named Daniel Reed was one of the strong proponents of the 4-note FaSoLa system in America.
Need we say much more?
We need not say much.
But we might as well.
Might as well. If you started with do, re, mi...
consisting of 2 whole steps.
Yes, you have a whole step between each of those notes. And then you get to fa, sol, la, the relationships are the same. So, we don't need do, re, mi.
Well, not necessarily.
Because we have fa, sol, la.
Yeah, indeed.
So we use fa, sol, la. And so a scale might look like this. Fa, sol, la, ti. Only problem is sometimes you have a note that has a half step above it and a whole step below it. So you only need 4 different pitch names, and they are fa, sol, la, and ti. So as you're singing along, fa, sol, la, ti, fa, sol, la, ti, fa, sol, la. Do you see how what was a la before turned into a ti because of its relationship to the fa?
We also had a second question.
Sherry has written, how does a composer choose what key to write a song in? Why, for instance, choose F sharp instead of F? Sherry, that's a really good question, and I think virtually every composer has asked that question at some point.
Indeed. So let's start here. As far as a worship setting, you see a lot of worship songs in the key of G. That is for 2 reasons. 1, because you can play it really easily on the guitar, and 2, because most songs don't go above scale degree 5. I have found in the chorus. So D, kind of middle C, and D above it are kind of the peak that you want to bring your congregational singing to. So if you're writing in a worship context, you want to be aware of the key as far as a range setting.
Composers would call this a tessitura. You're aware of the tessitura of your congregation. If you're using an intimate, quiet song, you might go to middle C, maybe even below that a little bit. If, on the other hand, you're writing a shout-out song, you want to put that in a higher key so that you're taking advantage of that higher tessitura that could go as high as an E or so. So whether the composer was wise or not, it would be wise for a worship leader to pay attention to keys.
Same note, writing a song in a certain key, dealing with tessitura is if you are a solo recording artist, such as Beyonce.
Yes.
Or...
And if you don't make the right choice, your producer will make that choice for you and say, you know what, you need to sing in this key because that's where your voice is at its best. On this song, that's the key you need to
on
to
this
sing.
song.
And all the musicians just simply adjust. Okay, we have to be in A flat minor.
Which is why Nashville recording studio artists play by numbers. Anyhow, another reason to write in a certain key rather than another, particularly with piano, though it's true with any tactile instrument, is a certain key might feel better to you.
Indeed. They call that writing idiomatically for an instrument. Certain intervals, certain pitches
I
work
particularly like to write idiomatically.
I think you pretty much are an idiom. Most days. But anyway,
Secret to piano is that B is actually better than C. Most pianists will tell you.
yes. Because when you play a B scale, where the thumb crosses under, the fingers here are all on black keys, and the thumb is on white keys. And so it actually is simpler to play a scale quickly.
To play. Not to think in, it's easier to think in C because it's all white notes.
Yeah.
But that could be a very justifiable reason for writing in one key over another.
Now for me, sometimes as a songwriter, I'll get tired of where my fingers go, whether on guitar or on piano. I just sort of do the same pattern over and over again. So I'll purposely choose a key that I'm not as comfortable in, let's say F sharp instead of F, to make myself think outside of the box and create some new sounds.
What an idiom.
Speaking of idioms, orchestras tune to an A. Concert bands tune to a B flat. Why is that, you ask? Well, because string instruments generally are on what we would call the sharp side, and they all tune to an A, and they have these open notes that are D, G, A, E, and if you think about the circle of fifths, that's all on the sharp side.
And that's particularly with strings rather than wind instruments.
With strings.
Right?
Wind instruments tune to a B flat. Then you have an E flat saxophone, you have an F horn, and they tend to be on the flat side. Hardly anybody plays a C instrument except for the flute. They're kind of stuck in the middle. So everybody prefers either sharps or flats. As a matter of fact, the only reason that we think F sharp is a harder key than F is because it's full of what we call accidentals. As if they were accidentally put there. The black keys on the keyboard. Whoops, didn't see that coming. I wanted to use all the white keys. If it weren't for equal temperament, we wouldn't be able to write in F sharp major because it would sound really bad. But perhaps that's a discussion for another day. And perhaps you're busy eating. Daniel, I'll let you have any closing remarks that you'd like to make.
Well, that's all for now. So tune in next time to hear Ask the Theorist.
Or flute.